Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important. They give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR2017 when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card to GoHunt.com to your shop. All in all, if you're hunting out west, 2018, GoHunt.com Insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR2017, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. You're hearing this, and it's going to be 2018. Days just fly by. I'm joined by Shawn, Mackie, and Shawn lives in New Hampshire, where I spent a couple of summers up in Lake Winnipesaukee, which is sort of kind of an hour north of where Shawn is. Shawn's a combat veteran, dog mesher, and he's passionate. Well, he's addicted to bow hunting. Let's be real. Let's be real. Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, and you know, New Hampshire, have you lived there all your life?
Yep, all my life.
Now,
I was stationed in Texas, in the Army. I was stationed in Texas, but I lived here.
Yeah. Is that like Orchard Park? I'm trying to think of someplace by the beach. What's the name of the town?
Old Orchard Beach.
Old Orchard. I was close.
Yeah, that's in Maine. That's just over the border.
Is it?
Yeah.
And so what's the name of your little town?
I live in Kingston.
Orchard. Pardon me?
My town here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I live in Kingston.
No, there's a Kingston in Rhode Island, too, or that's North Kingston. I don't know, folks. I spent a few years out in New England, so I'm trying to figure out where the heck I am. But
Did you see some foliage?
Foliage, I used to fish and hunt all the way up, let's say Rhode Island, and then New Hampshire, and then Maine.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of those maples coming out in the fall?
Just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I live out west now, and the aspens are great.
Yeah, my friend told me about that.
They're nothing like the hardwoods of New England for foliage. I mean, some people, that's their business. They just take people around for foliage tours.
Yeah, it gets a little busy.
Yeah,
it's a little busy up there.
Yeah, I bet it is. That's for sure. So you were talking on Facebook Live segment we just did about how a buck gave you a slip. So let's just talk about where you hunt and how you hunt it.
So I mentioned that there's conservation land behind my brother's house. It's about 50 acres. It doesn't get a lot of hunting pressure, especially during bow season. So I set up there with a stand, and then I have a state park that's the trailhead is 3 doors down from my house, and it doesn't really have there's a couple trailheads, but it's not advertised, and that doesn't get a lot of pressure either until gun season. Then you'll hear some stuff in there. So this year I was going back and forth between the two, but then I started getting wrapped up with that buck behind my brother's, so I kind of abandoned the one by my house when it was gun season. Next year I'll probably split up a little more, I don't think I was doing too much pressure at the conservation land where my stand was, and what I do too, I'll do stand and I'll hunt on the ground, even with a bow. I just going around quiet, stalking around, and try not to put too much pressure on them to scare them off. But I had a few times where I've gotten pretty close just on the ground, and they couldn't smell me or nothing. So it'll happen.
Now, how many stands do you have up?
Right now, I just got the one. I'll I'll probably leave that or keep it in that area, and then I'll probably get a climber for the land by my house, the state forest.
Now, do you have any problems on public land leaving sets up?
No, some people leave like a climber. They'll just put like a cable lock on it. So, I mean, you see some bow hunters up here, but there's not a lot. Even people that I know, my cousin, but he's been hunting his whole life and he's real successful. But there's not a lot of bow hunters up here, but there's a good amount. But you don't really see them too much,
Is it mostly gun hunting then up in New Hampshire?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So they got muzzle loader probably 10 days before shotgun and rifle, and shotgun rifle goes for about 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah, it's during
oh my goodness.
Yeah, so you got bow is from September 15th to December 15th. You just hunt bow the whole time. There's no late season anything. Muzzle loader starts around Halloween, and then gun season starts around Veterans Day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure on the deer.
It is, yes. So right when I started getting into these bucks by my brothers, that's when gun season started too. So, I don't know if that drove them back at night or more people were coming around just pushing, because you see what they do a lot is they'll do drives, and I used to do this. I don't do it anymore, but like a group of 4, group of 6, couple will sit, couple will push, and they'll just hit all these little areas because there's not a lot of public land around here, so they're either hitting chunks of woods that are right off the highway, or they know someone who's got a big chunk that they're pushing.
What's the size of your deer herd up there?
I'm not sure. For the one in the next town over, not the one by my house. I know it's good size, but I don't know the numbers.
Yeah, some people talk about 30 deer per square mile. Other places have 10. It just depends.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's less. What do they say? There's more roadkill deer in Pennsylvania than deer harvested in New Hampshire every year. So
that's probably true.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have huge numbers, but these 2 spots are good numbers. I'm not surprised. A lot of times early season I was going in, I would go in an hour and a half before sunrise. I was bumping 4, 5 does at a time. There was different doe groups I seen. So.
Now, talk to me about mature deer or what a trophy is up there. It might be a doe or it might be a 10-point buck. I don't have any basis for the conversation.
So up here it's always been a meat first mentality, and I see some of these racks out west and everything. It's like unbelievable. Like the size of the deer here, I'd probably say like a good mature buck's 180, 200 pounds, 8-point. You're doing pretty good. I think I've seen one 10-point in my life, and that was on the side of a road. Doe, probably 100 to 130 or so for a mature doe. A trophy buck, probably, I don't know, 220 or so, and a 10-point, I guess.
But in your whole lifetime, you haven't seen too many of those.
No, see more 8s and 6s, whether that's how it gets harvested or... I mean, there's a lot of harsh winters, too, so the last 2 years have been good for the deer because we haven't had a lot of snow. This year's already starting off pretty harsh.
Yeah, you already got a foot down, don't you?
Yeah, and it's highs of like 10 so far this week. It's going to go down as the week goes on, too, so that'll be fun.
Well, I was talking to a friend, Kevin McNeil, up in McClellan, Alberta, the other day, and it was 30 below with about a 50 below wind chill.
Oh, man. Unbelievable. I don't mind the cold. Single digits. I just can't stand it. When it's windy, I can't stand that. Oh, just goes right through me.
Right out of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
And I've got to, somebody said, well, why don't you come up and do this? I go, I ain't going no place near, below zero because of my lungs. There's no way,
right.
I'm not even going to push that. Right. I will next year, but this year, they say I'm healed and everything's right, but I mean, I'm not going to screw around. Just not going to, not going to dance with it. Not going to dance with it at all. So, okay, so we know, we've established, there's not a lot of deer. A mature buck isn't as big as some of the people in Wisconsin or Pennsylvania, and even up in New York, Lake Placid or some of the places up there, but it's still deer hunting. And so, how did you get schooled by that 8-pointer this year, or was he larger? I forgot to ask you.
No, he was an 8. He was a tall frame though. Usually, like the one on your wall,
right?
So where the tines come up, I mean, he was tall frame, which I don't know. Usually, I don't see too many of those around, so that's good. I mean, but that probably goes back to the last 2 years being good winters for them, and getting a lot of food. He must have. I don't know. I think it was my grunt call.
Your grunt call?
Yeah, I think he was buying into it, and then I think he's like, nah, that thing ain't real. And then, because then a couple of times later, I'd have him come in the thicket, but he'd just be snorting at me. He wouldn't come out. He knew.
He busted you.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah, you were busted.
And I know it wasn't. I know it was my scent control, because when I was talking about moving my stand that afternoon, I had probably the biggest doe I ever seen in my life. Just a huge head, nice full body. She was a nanny. She came in. She was trying to push that 4-point off, and she was right at the bottom of my stand. It was past legal light, so I wasn't going to shoot her. She jumped when I was trying to get on my GoPro, and she jumped when I clicked the button to turn it off. Not because she smelled me or nothing. And all she did was jump up, and then she didn't run off. She stayed, and she kept milling around. So yeah, it was probably my call for that buck. He knew.
Yeah. Did you try to rattle him?
I tried round. Yeah, he wasn't coming for that. He wasn't coming for it.
Yeah. How about snort wheeze?
No, I didn't try that.
And then of course putting scent out, you can do that. And then,
yeah, the state discourages some of that, like scent and putting like attractants down and stuff on the ground and everything, just because they don't want to try to promote chronic wasting, which it's not up here, but they definitely don't want doe urine. Like you can use salt attractants, but it's got to be less than 100. But I remember when I took my bow hunter safety course, even the game warden's like, it says under 100, but all the products are like 96, 93% salt. So, I mean, if I run into you and you're using it, I'm gonna have a talk with you, But so I usually don't bother with that stuff. Maybe I'll look a little more into it.
Yeah. This is shout out for Robbie Kickman, Camel Thug Outdoors, but I use his deer popsicles.
Yeah.
So look them up on Facebook, and I hang them from a tree, so nothing's on the ground.
Yep.
And then you just hang them, and they come in, they lick them until they're gone, and that's worked out well for me in places where you can use attractants or I just call them attractants. It's a corn product, so
right.
So if a warden came up, well, that's corn you're baiting.
Yeah.
Okay. It's, they would certainly have a case about me, but check that out. Cause I had one buck that was hammering it every single night. Cause if they hammer it, they're gone. I'll put one right back in there.
Yeah.
And see how it worked. But anyway, that's the shout out for Robbie. Let's just talk about, and I want to thank you for your service. And how does hunting help you get through what you did in the service?
I think it fills that void 100%. When I got out of the service, I said I want to get back into hunting because I was looking for something, needing something to belong to really focus on, because you go from focusing on all your training and then you get out and life starts over again and you get a job and whatever, but it's different, you're missing that thing. I tried applying for state police, fish and game, fire departments, like just trying to, not so much to get that thrill, but to get that the camaraderie in a place, to belong. But hunting definitely fills that void. And then I started bow hunting. I got out of the service in 2007. I started bow hunting in 2009. I did it for a couple of years, and I was into it. But then once gun season started, I pick up the muzzle loader and abandon it, And then I'd go back later in the season to the bow. But just being out in the woods in general and hunting, that definitely helped fill that void.
What kind of work did you end up getting?
Right when I got out?
Yeah, after you get out.
So I I thought I had something lined up. I started working at Sig Sauer, but the plant was half hour from my house. And I was hoping to get on to be an instructor at the academy, but it didn't pan out. So I left after 6 months, and I went back to construction, which is what I did before the service. And then I joined the Carpenters Union in 2012. So it's a little better than what I was doing before. But
So you're steadily employed, though.
Yep, absolutely.
Good. Excellent. So it allows you to have a couple of bucks and time off to go whitetail hunt. But it seems like you're right in where you hunt. I mean, you don't have to go far.
Yeah, I don't have to go far, that's why I like. I usually do the one behind my brother's like on the weekends more, and then the one by my house. Obviously, I can just come home, shower, change, and walk out the door, and I'm in the woods. So we'll see. But then I don't get to hunt this one in the morning, so I'm not sure. I got to put some cams up over here probably, see what's going on.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask. How many cameras are you running?
Yeah, I got one over at my brother's. I got two. I just haven't put one up over here. And then I'll go out and I'll run the trails out by my house too. So I'll look for tracks every time I go. Obviously, there was a big game trail they were using. I saw early season, but I went out Christmas Eve, and there was no tracks in the snow. It just snowed. We had an ice storm the night before. There was no tracks anywhere around where I saw them early season. So I got an idea where they're hiding though. So I got to put up a cam out there.
No, you mentioned running. So do you run competitively or just run to stay in shape?
No, not competitively. Stay in shape. I love to run. So I've been on the shelf for a couple of years, even with hunting. I tore my ACL and both my meniscus when I was in boot camp.
Ouch!
Halfway through, yeah. And then I didn't say anything because I didn't want to get recycled and start it over. So then it was probably 2.5 years later, I finally had surgery to repair it.
Oh.
But by then, all the buckling had done a lot of damage to the bone cartilage. I had another procedure a year afterwards to clean up some stuff because the meniscus didn't take when they performed the surgery to sew it back together. That was 04 and 05. I got out in 07. I was already having trouble with arthritis and running. In 2015, I mean, it got so bad. I'd come home from work and I'd ice my knee 5 times a night, and I wouldn't be able to do anything. I'd barely be able to get through work. And I mean, this went on for a couple of years. They went to do a microfracture where they poke holes in the cartilage and it helps regrow, but they said it was way too bad. My knee got worse from there because every time you go in and mess around, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. This past in 2016 in February, they did bone plugs into my femur. That's where they cored 2 1-inch holes, and they did it to a cadaver and then like press fit like plugs. So it's all new surface on the femur for cartilage. So then that was February last year. I went through rehab. I was out of work for like 6 months. And then right at the beginning of hunting season, I tore my hamstring in the same leg. Yeah. So I went out to the woods twice, and that's when I ran into that buck. I walked into that buck in the doe, and I went to go. I had my muzzleloader. I went to shift my foot to get a better angle, and I snapped a twig, and they heard it. They didn't take off. They just did a 90-degree turn and kept walking. And I thought to myself, I said, this is during the day, during the week, and I'm like, if I get a deer, how the heck am I going to get this thing out of here by myself with a bum hamstring? I'm like, so I just decided to call it for the year. I didn't go back out. Kind of bummed. But so this year is really the first year that I've been back full-time hunting. And this was the first year I bow hunted the whole year. I pulled out my muzzleloader, cleaned it up, shot it a couple times, a couple days before season started. And I went to go walk out when it was the first day of muzzleloader. I grabbed it and I said, you know what? No. I put it back. It says, I haven't been in a situation yet this year where I'm disappointed because I had the bow and I needed a gun instead. So I stuck with the bow the whole time. I didn't pick up the muzzleloader again. I just kept with it, and it was pretty amazing. I love it. It was unbelievable.
Good for you. Now, your knees, they operate or they work?
And then, so now, I mean, it's not chronic like it was. Once in a while, it'll still ache a little bit. I started taking Arctic cod liver oil.
Yeah.
And I guess it takes about a month to build up in your system. And someone turned me on to it. And I was telling them, There's a guy I work with. I'm like, I said, you know my knee. This isn't going to work. I'm like, nothing works. I'm like, come on. He's like, just try it. You got to take it every day, though, religiously every day. I'm like, all right. Well, then, like a month later, I started noticing it wasn't bothering me with certain things. And I was like, wait a second. So I shot him a text. He's like, yeah, that's the power fish oil. I'm like, there's no way. So then I started getting back into hiking and running. Yeah. No, I mean, I won't. I try not to run on the roads because I want the extra cushion, But
Good for
now
you.
yeah. Now it's good. I can back 100% back at it.
Well, I'm glad I asked that question. That's for darn sure. You just talked about, you put your muzzleloader up and you said, I'm a bow hunter. Help me or help the listeners understand. We know what that means to you, but your style of hunting, what's the whole thing behind it?
It's definitely more struggle. It's tougher. The difference between bow hunting and with firearms. I mean, obviously you got to get closer. I think you got to do your homework more. You got to scout the area out more early season. Like I said, if it's during hunting season, I'm not always in the stand. I'll sit or I'll walk a little and sit and check stuff out. But I'll try not to do it all the time because I don't want to push them away or push them nocturnal. So if they say, like, I know there's a big rainstorm coming too, I mean, I spray my boots down and everything, but if there's like a big storm coming or whatever, I'll definitely get out and move around more, see what's going on, see if they're trying to skirt me again or push them back. Or because I had my stand set up on a game trail, and then basically they pushed the game trail back like 50 yards, like I said. So whether that was pressure for me or another hunter, I don't know. But yeah, definitely, probably it's more homework. I mean, it's just, to me, it's more intimate. I'm not going to give up on firearms. I'll definitely still consider doing that again. But this year, I couldn't put the bow down. I had to keep that.
I think that's great. Hey, we're at the time of the show that I'm going to ask you a question about the last piece of gear you bought and why you bought it.
So I used to always hunt back in the day with like work boots or whatever, or even like army boots that was issued. And I was like, I had some winter hikers, but I'm like, I need a real like legit hunting boot. So I bought Under Armour, the Browtine 2.0. They had 400 grams of insulation. Those things, they grip unbelievable, but the way the boot cradles your Achilles is like a lab mouthing a duck, I guess. Just nice and soft, but a good grip, and your foot doesn't shift around at all. But they're built almost like a backpacker boot, but they're light, like just a regular hiker. And they're waterproof. They got the storm technology, super comfortable, fast pace, or just crawling around. Quite pleased with them. Maybe I should have got the 800 gram insulation instead of the 4, because late season I was a little chilly, but let's see.
And thanks for that. Appreciate that that insight. The other thing we talked about is that dog musher. How does that work?
So, I mean, I've always been obsessed since I was a kid I always wanted to work dogs. I always wanted to run a sled with dogs. I think when I was 6, we got our first dog. He was a hybrid wolf. We had to put him down because of hip dysplasia. But, I mean, that started when I was a teenager. I got a Siberian. I never got a sled, though. And then, what year was it? 2012, I think. I was looking to get a dog again because mine had passed away. And I was just looking up, like, good working dog breeds. And it's amazing because I'm from New Hampshire. So what I have now is I have 3 Chinooks. And that's actually the state dog in New Hampshire. They were created up just north of Winnipesaukee, up by Tamworth in New Hampshire. They used them on the second Antarctic expedition for hauling freight and everything back like 100 years ago. They're pretty rare. There's only probably about 1,200 or so in the world. Just did a lot of research, and they seemed the best because Huskies off leash, they'll take off. They're gone. They're gone miles. They got a high prey drive, and they're not good with recall off leash. These dogs are great. So I got one, and I worked on. I bought a big anchor chain so he could pull weight in his pull harness, even in the summer, just to get him working. A motorcycle tire I use when they're puppies because it makes noise behind them and it's light enough so they get used to like the sled being behind them. So then we went up to a festival. They have a festival every year and I already had one. We didn't have the second one yet, and they were giving rides, so I jumped on someone's sled, and that was my first time mushing it. It was just the freedom, just being on that thing, and the dogs running in front of you. It was just incredible. So we ended up getting another one, and then I ended up picking up a sled finally. I went out a few times. This is why I say I'm a part-time musher. I mean, I went out a few times, but then that's when I started. That's when I had the last two surgeries, and we had the two bad winters that we had like hardly any snow at all. Last year I was able to get out once. It was spring. We got hit with like a foot or something, maybe in March. I can't remember. I know I was sweating my butt off though, trying to run with the dogs. But no, it's a great. That's my main hobby, I guess. That and archery, but a lot of work with 3 dogs and keeping them going. I take them running with me and stuff, or if we go hiking.
Now, I'm thinking about the dogs and the sled and a deer. I mean, you could put a deer down any place, and those dogs would haul it out, right?
Yeah. Well, as long as it's snow. Oh, yeah. I guess I could just hook them up, right?
I would.
Yeah. They'd probably try to eat the thing on me.
No, they wouldn't. No, just throw it in there and.
Yeah, I could get like a kid's snow sled, right? And then I could pull that thing.
Yeah, because I have a 7-foot long kid's snow sled. They call it a game car, not a game cart, but a game sled.
Yeah.
Same things you buy at Walmart.
Right.
But having said that, you put 2 dogs on that, they could slide anything.
Right.
They really could.
Yep. Yeah, they can pull. They're about 60, 70 pounds, and they can pull 3 times their body weight, each one. So, I mean, that's like 180 pounds apiece. You got 2 dogs.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight.
That's a lot of weight, yeah. When I tell people I take them out on the sled, I used to go when I just had the 2, and now I got 3. And they're like, you can go with, because they think like a big team, like 6 or 12 dogs, you need to pull one person. I said, no, you can go out for a couple hours, hour and a half, 2 hours, 2, 3 dogs, yeah. They'll be tired, but they'll go.
Now, how do you keep them fed? Do you feed them? Do you fish or get fish from the ocean, or how do you do that?
Just regular kibble, but a high protein, which is more. I mean, it's probably the higher end on the market for the protein levels. And then we'll mix in stuff too, or some leftovers, but sometimes we'll do a chicken or whatever, and then cut it up, tear it apart, just so they can get some other meat too.
Because I watch enough Discovery Channel or National Geographic with these guys in Alaska. I mean, they're fishing chum salmon and get a couple of tons of chum salmon. That's what they feed their dogs.
Yeah. The breeder we got him from, he used to have the Fish and Game would contact him when there was a roadkill, so we'd go pick it up and then cut it up for the dogs. But they had 13 dogs, so it was a little expensive buying just regular kibble,
Yeah, amazing. What don't you do? I mean, yeah, I'm thinking, okay, he's running dogs. He's an archer. He put him, the VA or whoever put him back together, so now he's running. I mean,
I used to boulder. I used to rock climb, not with ropes, but bouldering. But
so you boulder?
Yeah, well, I haven't since because of my knees, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll think about it again.
Yeah, no. Where do you go? The Swag Humps, or no? That's in New York.
There's a place, Pawtuckaway State Park. It's probably half hour north of here.
Yeah.
There's enormous boulder fields, like the size of houses. There's probably 20 or 30 of them. It's unbelievable when you walk in there and just to see everything from the glaciers when they came through.
Yeah.
There's a couple slabs too, slab walls, but
now you can do cracks in there or on the slabs. Are there enough cracks that people free climb it?
Yep. And these slabs here are too big. It's not like you're going to be on the. It's quick. It's maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. Not like you're out on the slab for like a couple hours,
Yeah.
I don't have time for that. My thing, too, is what if you're out there, I know you got ropes, but then the bad storm rolls in the summer or something, and now you're stuck during a thunderstorm to the side of a rock, and you can't rush it to get up any faster because then you're taking too many risks,
Go back down.
Yeah, go back down, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what I would do in that. I don't know. Been too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, been way too long. So now, do you belong to like New Hampshire Deer United or any of the whitetail groups so you can get with guys and gals that bow hunt or not?
No, I haven't. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, because you mentioned the camaraderie, that all veterans have, and it's like the sense of belonging and the
Right.
sense of team and all that. Um, I found some of the conservation groups. There's a lot of guys just like you that like to hunt, and all of a sudden you sit down, have a beer, have a cup of coffee, whatever, and you get a lot of common ground. That's what I was
Right.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'll definitely look into that.
Yeah. So, what are 5 things that you would tell people if they're hunting small parcels of land, close to, close to houses?
Get a bow. See you next
Silly
time.
boy. Okay, so that's one. That's one.
I mean, obviously, respect their property. I mean, if I'm sneaking around and I hunt on a deer trail or whatever, but then the next thing I know, I'm up in someone's backyard, I immediately back out. I don't keep looking. I don't leave any trash or anything behind. Oh, what's that? 3
Yeah. Well, what about hunting techniques?
techniques.
Yeah, trail cams, stand sets, scent control, all those
Yeah,
type of things.
I mean, start summertime, get out there scouting, seeing what they're doing. Start sending your cams up, and then move your stand accordingly. You know, I set up my stand on look for food sources too. I mean, we got a lot of white oak up here, and they love white oak, and the beech tree drops nuts. They love those. And I don't know. I usually have this year was pretty good. Early season around the white oaks around food source. Post rut they kind of changed. I didn't see him as much either, but I mean this weather was really wacky this year, so it's tough to gauge.
One thing you said, and we're going to kind of wind up on this, recruiting other people into the outdoors. How do you go about that?
Um, I just talk about it constantly. People at work and friends that, I mean, they're active or they like to go hiking or whatever, and they come over for a cookout, and I pull out the bow or I I got a tomahawk pole. I throw tomahawks too, and just have some fun and a couple beers or whatever, and um, just try to introduce them. The 2 guys, my buddy and his brother, come over this summer, and they had never one had shot a bow before, but it was like a small compound, and his brother had never shot one, and they were like, wow, this is pretty cool. We should do this again. Get together. People from work, I just talking about like we are experiences and stuff, or similar likes or people in the industry that they know about, and then they're like, you gotta show me how to shoot a bow. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's good.
And that's rewarding to me. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I'd love to teach them that. Just like when I was in the army and I was teaching my privates on the tank. How to do everything and how everything should be. And then you see them apply that, and then you see them become successful. So yeah, same feeling. And that just ties back into how it's very similar.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. And we got Happy New Year coming up in a few days, and with that, Shawn, thank you so much for being a guest of Whitetail Rendezvous.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Hey, one question, real quick.
Sure.
Is the coffee going to be in whole bean or no? Because I like to grind my beans.
Well, what do you want? How do you know about the coffee? I haven't announced the coffee yet. How did you find out about the coffee?
Someone showed me a little picture. Someone we both know.
Kenny Maynard.
Yeah. He said, hey, would you buy this? I said, yeah, sure.
Folks, we're talking about something that's going to happen sooner than later. And my good friend Kenny Maynard and I are going to do some really neat things, with some coffee. I guess that's funny. And with that, I'm going to shut up. Hey, folks, you're not going to want to miss the next episode. Why am I laughing? Because Michael Walker's one piece of work. Why? He's a gold miner. 2, he hunts. And 3, he's a Nashville recording artist. And his first single hit was Ain't Taking These Guns. And he's turned that into an album, which is coming out the first part of 2018. And it's California. And Michael's just a really interesting guy. I met him at the Professional Outdoor Media Association convention last year, and he's just a great guy. And he's unique. I'll just let Michael talk for himself on what unique means. But all in all, Michael Walker ain't taking these guns. Country artist. Going to be one heck of a show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.